Hey, hi guys, it's Phil Eichinger. I appreciate you coming to the channel, and today we're going to talk about forgiveness. And what we're going to talk about in terms of forgiveness is actually 5 tips or 5 steps that I have used to be able to forgive myself, and it also works with other people, but starting internally myself, forgive myself for my addiction, my alcoholism, and the many years that I sacrificed of my children being children because I was either physically in bed or mentally hungover, absent, and dealing with it. So I had thought that if I just say I'm sorry or to myself, or I just said I'm going to forgive myself, that would be enough. And what I found is that does nothing but pick at the scab, and it never heals. And the only way out is through. And so you really have to feel it and feel the emotions of it, and feel the rawness of it, and make peace with it. And then you're able to move on, and it doesn't keep cropping up like whack-a-mole at later points in your life. And you're saying, boy, I thought I forgave myself. Why am I behaving this way? Why am I beating the crap out of myself? Why am I up all night and can't sleep? I thought I forgave myself. Why do these habits, why do I keep stepping on all these rakes and knocking myself out? And, that's when I realized there's more to it than just verbally telling yourself you forgive yourself. That you actually have to go back and walk through the fire and then come out the other side, and then it'll be gone forever. So the 5 steps that I employ are deal with the shame, the guilt, the sadness, the anger, and then you forgive yourself and you're able to move on. In terms of the shame, the way I dealt with that, number 1, was the affirmations. I was taught to say affirmations that I'm not less than, I'm not a terrible person, I made mistakes, but I'm not a flawed person that doesn't deserve happiness now for the rest of their life because they're so shame-based. And the way I did that was I would repeat every morning when I get up in the mirror, I love myself, I love my life, I love the people in my life, I am much, much stronger than I ever thought I could be. And it sounds simple, and it is, but repeating it and looking yourself in the eye and saying it as you're getting sober or as you're getting clean, and as your life begins to get better, you start to believe it. And I started to believe it. The second piece of the shame part was present moment, staying in the present moment. Whenever I found myself drifting back to, boy, you're a bad guy, boy, you missed the first 11 years of your son's life, and you missed the first 9 years of your daughter's life. What type of a father does that? And the shame again would come in. I would zap out of that and say, that's in the past, that's not me, I'm a new person now, I'm changing, and I would get myself into the future, into the present moment, and I would forget it, and I would watch myself. I would literally watch myself walk down that path in terms of the thoughts, but I wouldn't follow them, I wouldn't attach to them. I'd be like, that's wrong, that's the past, it's gone, it's never going to be here again, I've got to stay focused on the present. And I would do something to stay focused on the present. I'd say, this bottle of water is here, there's a cookie here, here's my cell phone, and I would snap back and get away from beating myself up thinking about the past. The past is no good when it comes to stuff like that, and it can only endanger your recovery or your well-being and happiness. The second thing of the guilt I think is the best way is to go to the people when they're age appropriate, that you're feeling guilty over how you affected their lives, and talk to them and talk to them as a human being, not as a super dad, or not as this hero, but someone who is a good man who made mistakes, that always corrects them, that never stops fighting, and always tries to do the next right thing. And when I did that and talked that way to my kids, when they were teenagers, I'm not talking 6 years old, they began to appreciate me as someone who had humility and courage, and those types of qualities made them think of me as a better dad as things move forward. So that's how I dealt with the guilt. I talked to the people that were affected directly by my actions. Third, the sadness. This is a big one, and this is a really big one. It's sad. I mean, listen to me. It's sad. You know, like when your daughter's going to dance or cheerleading, or your son's going to basketball game or baseball game, and you're like in a mental fog. You're physically there, but not really. You reek of alcohol because it's coming out of your pores. And some days you just stay in bed, pay somebody money to go take your kids and be their dad for the day. That's sad. And you got to feel that sadness. And, you know, I used a lot of the John Bradshaw work, healing and reclaiming your inner child, to revisit some of the sadness that I personally experienced and how that may have bled into my current situation with my kids. And I felt it. And God, Dick Wagner has a song, Remember the Child. Holy smokes! You want to talk about feeling the sadness? I felt it, but as I was going through it, I knew it wasn't going to last forever. I knew that I was in the middle of it, and I was feeling the pain and the sorrow and the deep sadness of those years, those lost years. But I also knew that once I felt the pain fully, that I would come out on the other side and not have to worry about it cropping up in relationships, in business, in personal, in coaching, in leadership roles. It wouldn't sabotage the rest of my life like it was not dealing with the forgiveness of myself and just verbally doing it. Fourth is anger. What I would do here is go to a baseball cage, a batting cage, and just beat the hell out of baseballs for an hour until I was physically exhausted and couldn't lift my arms. And I would scream and yell, and people would look at me like I was a nut. But you know, that type of stuff. I've seen people, pound phone books with wiffle ball bats. I've seen people, get to the gym and really try to strenuously lift some weights, and get the anger out of being angry with that person who happens to be, in this case, you. And then, after you're pretty well spent, I've gone through the shame, I've gone through the guilt, I've gone through the sadness, and I've gone through the anger, and then I can look in the mirror and I can say, I forgive myself. I'm not perfect. I did the best I could based on the tools I had at the time. I have a new set of tools now. It's early in the game. My kids adore me, and my relationship with them is going to be even better, and is actually better because of what happened as opposed to in spite of what happened. So they're the 5 steps. They're my 5 tips to forgiving yourself, and forgiving other folks. It's the same 5 steps for people that have hurt you or disrespected you or made you feel less than. But you want to forgive them, not only for their benefit, but more for yours. Take a walk through these 5 steps, do the work, and you'll find once you're past, you'll never have to revisit it again. Thanks, everybody. If you want to hear more about my story of overcoming anxiety, alcoholism, and addiction, I'm going to be the first comment here below, and you can link to my story. Okay, thanks. See ya.